Hey there, entrepreneur. Welcome to the Scale to Sell podcast, where we help business owners like you strategically grow your business, win at work and life, and exit on your terms. This is episode number 36, the 4 considerations that you should think about before doing an internal transfer of your business. So, Steve, controversial topic in the sense of most people, if they get to this stage of thinking about their exit, and you talk to them about, what they plan on doing, oftentimes if they respond with, well, I'm just going to do an internal transfer, they act like that's the end of the conversation. Like there's no other things that they need to think about or be concerned with. And that's not true, is it?
No, because it's still one of the largest assets and they're counting on that asset to be ran. But it's kind of like just a flippant remark, well, my kids are going to take it over, or a key person in my business, and like there's no other considerations there. But no, it's the same things that can derail a successful exit of an external sale can be true of, and maybe even more disruptive in an internal sale.
The purpose of this episode is really to dive deeper into this topic. So if you've been with us from the beginning, you might remember episodes 5 and 6, where we covered kind of an overview of some of the exit options that you should consider when thinking about what the next chapter of your life is going to look like. And so now we're kind of coming back to this topic, especially now that we've already celebrated our first year of the podcast, which is awesome. But we've seen this question come up a number of times over the past year with business owners who are wanting to hand it off to the next generation, but they need to know and need to be guided a little bit, coached a bit about what it means to do so successfully. We've talked about the stats before, but the stats are not pretty when it comes to the success of the transfer over the following generations.
Right. Only 30% success rate to the next generation, meaning a family member of some kind, whether it's your son or daughter, niece, nephew, somebody internal like that. Only about 30% of the time does it succeed. That means 70% of the time they either don't want the business or it doesn't succeed for a variety of reasons.
Which we'll get to in a bit. And that's just to the second generation. Then if you keep on going to the next ones, it's just like
down to 3%.
Yeah, it's not good. So clearly what has been happening with this process of the way in which people have been doing an internal transfer isn't working. And so that's why we're here, to provide some of the considerations that you should make if you're thinking about this might be an option for you in the legacy that you're trying to leave. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, the first consideration is, do you have a qualified individual who would be a good fit? I say all of those words are important: a qualified individual and a good fit for that position. Because there's a lot of times where there might be someone who might express an interest, but may not be the right person for that role, may not have the right qualities or character to really step in.
It's different from being, the entrepreneur. I saw something on the internet just recently. It was kind of true. Reminded me of me, actually. And, the most successful entrepreneurs aren't necessarily the smartest, right? So it reminded me of me. But they're successful for a number of reasons. ADD, they're just focused and attention. They've got challenges, but they work their way through them. But as your kid, have that same entrepreneur spirit, right? They see you and they see you not where you were 10, 20, 30 years ago and the mistakes and the grind that you had to crank it out. And maybe you make it look easy now, but do they have that spirit right there that they're going to put in 50, 60, 70 hours a week? Are they willing to do that? Perhaps yes, perhaps no, but it is at least one of the considerations.
I love a good self-deprecating humor moment too. That's funny. I do think with that, finding the right person who is going to be, whether, with an internal transfer, it's someone who has been in the company, and you've done this actually in other businesses of yours, where you've handed it off to someone in the company who knew the business well, who had worked in it, was willing to put in the hard work and make it work in this transition and take over from you. So you've seen it happen personally. And it's great when it gets to happen, but making sure you have that right person is definitely a key part of that success if it's going to continue on and be a part of your legacy.
So many things to consider do they have the entrepreneur spirit? There's that. Can they do all the tasks? What do you do? I don't do all the things in our businesses. My wife is the CFO of our businesses, and so I would have no clue as to how to even get into the checking account, much less write a check. So, but we've been married for over 40 years, and so I have that. But are they skilled in everything that you do? Well, you can bring in other people to help do that, and these things are important for the right reasons that we've talked about before. Is one, if you're not going to have a big liquidity sale, typically, if you sell it to your kids, you're going to be the bank. You're going to finance it. And sometimes you'll make excuses or whatever where a bank or other lender will go, no, we're not going to do that. They don't have the experience, or we just don't like the track record, or whatever reasons it might be. But you can bring in other people to do the books or do other tasks. But also, are the current teammates, will they work for them?
Yeah.
Right. And so we've seen that happen too. They'll work for you, but when you say you're heading out the door, they don't like them. They don't relate to them for whatever reason.
The respect isn't there.
It might be great people, but they say it's a young person. Hey, I've been here for years and I'm getting passed over, and I'm going to work for a 20-something-year-old. And so now they're up and out the door, working down the street, and one of your key people, and you've lost value, maybe you lost clients because of it. Your clients don't relate to them.
We're going to get to this in one of the subsequent points, but just to raise it here briefly, if the team hasn't been able to see them succeed in a leadership type capacity and how they take care of the team and work together, it's going to be hard to just have this blanket trust for someone. And again, that goes back to why the process is important, which we'll get to in just a little bit. So the first one, do you have a qualified individual who would be a good fit? The second consideration, do they really want that position? And sometimes, right, they think they do. They think they might like to do that work, get into it, and it may not be the right fit. We've seen that one too. And what do you do from there if that plan kind of falls through?
At this stage of life, with all the mistakes, the successes, and whatever we had, when there's something comes up in business, I've had so many experiences. I know how to bark out an order and instruct people on how to do this, do that. I don't have the answers to everything because occasionally new things crop up even I haven't seen before. But in that situation, you kind of make it look easy. And if the people around you, including your kids or whoever's going to take over the business, sees you and you make it look easy, and you're rolling up in your nice shiny car and you're heading off to your beach house on the weekend, and they want some of that. I want that. Who doesn't? But then, so sometimes they ignore the hard stuff and they forget that, what you went through, and when you were driving the clunker back in the day, and where you were missing paychecks because you were making sure everybody else got paid. So it's you want to make sure that expectation, and a lot of times the owner will do a gradual payout, a gradual phase out of the business. And I have a number of clients, and that's a good way to do it. Some people, though, just want to pack up and be gone. Hey, you guys run it and keep my money coming over the next 10 years. And then if something happens, again, it falls apart. You lose your asset. You have to jump back into the business if you can, health-wise. So all those factors right there, things to consider. And I've been through it myself before, so I know what to expect. I've helped other people go through it, so I know what to expect. We've heard the term all the time, OPM, but I heard this recently too, OPM, other people's money. But somebody said OPE, other people's experiences. And I thought that was really simple, but it makes sense. Use other people's experiences, and that's why you listen to podcasts and you study other people. And if you do want to grow your business, or in this case, exit your business, you work with people that I don't have just my experiences. I've got all kinds of other business owners, small, medium, and large, that we're working with to both grow and exit. And we remember the stat, Adam remembers this, only about 20 to 30% of all businesses ever successfully sell. That means 70 to 80% fail. Well, we're trying to flip that on its head. We're trying to make it so only a fraction of them don't successfully sell. And that's through use other people's experiences so you don't make the same mistakes. It's costly. It costs you time and money, and it's not good.
Well, and two things there. You've got not just the business owners that you've worked with at varying sizes of businesses and different family dynamics and transition plans and things, but also the team of people that we work with on the exit team side of things. You've got the mergers and acquisitions team, the attorneys, the tax planners who are thinking about all of the different things that we're probably not used to making on a daily basis, because for most people, the exit happens once normally, unless you have multiple businesses and this becomes a thing. So not only having the past experiences of yourself, but the whole team kind of coming around you. And I think back to what you were saying about having the individual and do they really want the position? Sometimes you don't know all of the details. If you haven't been intentional about bringing that person into the processes of a day-to-day, what life looks like for you, in work, sometimes you don't know all of the different things that you're responsible for and the tasks and it may not be aligned with what you're good at and what you want to do. And it may not be the right fit to bring someone on. So you just don't know.
Sometimes family pressure.
Yeah.
The mom puts pressure on them, and it's just assumed that the kids will take over. Yep. And if the kid doesn't say anything, but they have sometimes other interests, yep, it's not really what I want to do. I would rather go, but I feel obligated to keep on mom and dad's legacy going here. Yep. And so there's that pressure as well. Sure. Sometimes it will, sometimes you go, well, they're taking it over, and maybe they adjust and fit and do their thing, but sometimes they might resent it after a while. Mm-hmm. Business suffers, buyout suffers, and all kinds of other bad things can happen from that. Relationships get broken sometimes.
That's true. So first consideration, do you have a qualified individual who would be a good fit? Do they really want that position? And number 3, how will you get paid? Right? Again, because like you brought up earlier, with an external sale, you've got the big liquid kind of event happening there. But with an internal transfer, what you often see is that kind of gradual payout. So you're adding risk that things are going to continue or even improve from where they are to where the company is able to continue paying you what you are owed from that. But again, you're adding risk into your retirement, into that next chapter of your life. What are some of the considerations that they should be thinking about with that?
I have an example. I had a business that I had for about 35 years. And when I got into the financial services business, I'm a financial services advisor. I own my own advisory firm. If you haven't, this is the first podcast or whatever. But that commercial cleaning business, in the early 2000s, I decided this is my career path and this is what I had always wanted to do, and I was having some success. So I told my operations manager, you're going to run it. Call me if somebody dies or something. I really didn't want to talk to anybody. My wife is going to do the books. She'll take care of the insurance, the licenses, and all that other administrative stuff. You go do operations. And my deal was he didn't have a lot of money, so my buyout was I was going to pay him more than I had been paying him, and I was going to get a payout for as long as that business lasted. Well, after a few years, I was still getting paid, but the income started to gradually slow down because we had lost a few contracts. And luckily, my income from this business had taken off, and I didn't need it. So for me, heading into another career path, it was okay. And that lasted for about 8 or 9 years, and then I gave him the keys to the business I was on. But my point, if I was counting on that money, if I was heading into retirement, then I'd had to jump back into the business and try to crank it back up. What if my health wouldn't have allowed it to, or I just didn't want to because I was 5, 6, 7 years into retirement. So if you're going to do an internal, most people want to be the bank for the kids because kids don't have a whole lot of money sometimes, most of the time. And so, but there are ways to get it done where you get at least, we suggest that you get at least some of your money up front through lenders. There are lenders, if you package this right, and our team can do that for you. And we suggest you get at least 40 to 50% of your money up front so you mitigate your risk. You're cutting down on that chance of default. even if your kid is great or whoever it is running the business, there's things that happen in the economy, technology, competition, other factors that change the business. And all of a sudden they were doing everything right. But now the business is not anything like it was before. And now you've lost your investment and your retirement is damaged forever.
Again, this isn't a like scare you situation, like don't do this because this is wrong.
Just be aware.
Yeah. Like caution, like think through these things and make sure that you're approaching this in a fully informed way, right? The last one that we're going to talk about here, which we've also kind of alluded to as well, is how are you working now to make that transition effective? So whether that's like you were referencing earlier, changing up their position and bringing them into more of the operations from your perspective as the owner, as the leader of the company, and to what you do, and giving them a chance to succeed and letting the other team see that, I think is crucial, not only for the individual to let them know, okay, is this really the right move for me before, moving down that path, but also for the sake of the team to see the succession plan working out and that they're going to be taken care of as well, I think would relieve a lot of fears there.
It does. We have a business owner we're working with right now and helping them grow their business, really successful business already, bringing additional value to them as we can. And this gentleman has an operations manager that is really good and probably, could run the business themselves at some point in time. But he knows that the kids are being groomed with education and background. He understands that that's the goal. That's the way it's looking right now. And as they work in the summers and other things when they're not in school and anytime they have, and when they get out of school, they'll come on and do and understand every part of the business because, the owners of the business are really smart and sharp. And so they're being groomed, but that's not always the case, right? Again, resentment can set in and all kinds of other factors anyway, but documentation of what everybody does. We've talked about that, protecting your value of your business by documenting what you do. If you're the owner and not going to be there, you're going to be on a beach or mountaintop or traveling in an RV across the country. You want to document what everybody does so they have an understanding. Make sure they have an understanding of the bookkeeping and licenses and every aspect of the business, because if you come out of there and you're the one that's been handling all that, then they're going to be flying blind and stress happens and the business can suffer. So there's setting the expectations if it's a family member, making sure they're right and groomed for it, harvesting some equity out of there, not just giving them and being the bank over the long term, and documenting. These are just some of the things to ensure success right there. They may not be good at bookkeeping. You can hire a bookkeeping service. There's a million payroll services around there. We do ours in-house, but at some point in time, it might make sense to take it outbound just to not have to deal with that. But those are just some of the things.
It would be a little funny if we thought about other areas of life where the first time you did something, you were expected to do it like perfectly. Like we don't, with a little kid learning to walk or ride a bike, like we don't expect them to immediately know how to handle every situation, but that's why we practice, right? That's part of that thing. So being intentional when you're looking to exit, and even before, so that you've got a backup.
If something happens to you, these are important steps to have out there and have documented processes and have people that know what you do. So there's something happens, not just in an accident. Well, I'm going to work forever, Steve. I've heard that one a lot. Well, you're not going to work forever because your health is going to change or you're going to leave the planet, as I call it. You're not going to be here anymore. So you want to make sure your team has that. And, going through and giving them adequate time to see these things. And if there's things in my business that I delegate because I don't want to do them. It's not that I couldn't. I have in the past, in most cases. I just don't want to do it. My time, I want to focus on these things. Your clients. We're talking about setting expectations for your staff, your team, but what about your clients, right? If you have a couple key clients and they're not accustomed and all of a sudden you're not there anymore in that relationship, are they keen on being able to keep that relationship or those relationships going? Sometimes yes, sometimes there's friction there, and sometimes they just don't have the same rapport. They may have better rapport. It can work out to the positive as well.
But I think and that all goes back to this idea of taking the time, being intentional with it, so that in that situation, whether it's a big client contract that you don't want to lose and so you need to build that relationship, or just even your client base as it is, right? With everyone, being aware of what's happened. People hate being in a situation where they feel like they're not going to be taken care of. And so to have the leadership plan, no one likes the uncertainty and what's going on, not knowing what's going on and if they're going to be taken care of. So having that plan in place and at the right time, sharing those plans so that people know, hey, here's what's going to happen. We've got this time period where I'm still around. I'm still here to help you, all of those things, but we're also bringing in other people to assist. There's a lot of value in making sure that your customer relationships are taken care of.
And the other thing that we've learned is that, you're not going to sell the business at the end of the year and all of a sudden and not make sure you got all these things taken care of. One, these steps are there to help you grow the business.
Yeah.
And if you're ready to grow, you may not, you got to have your finances in order and all that. But if you're ready to exit, then you're ready to grow. Because if you've got all these things in place, you got processes documented, you got redundant backup game plans with staff, you've got your key people trained up and knowing what to do, you got your own finances squared away. If you're ready to exit, you're also ready to grow. Yeah. You could be ready to grow, but not ready to exit because you don't have your finances in order. You don't know what you're going to do in the next step in life and all that other good stuff.
Absolutely. So again, not to scare you, but these are just the things to think about beforehand while wherever you're at in the stage of your business now, so that you can have the options to do different things and do it the right way, one that is going to leave a legacy and also protect you and perhaps your family, if that's who's taking over, and really set them up for success and not just blindside them or the team or your customers and really danger the potential legacy of the business. If you have questions, if you want to talk about these things, there's a lot more that we could say and a lot more expertise that we could add to your specific situation. I'd encourage you to go to scaletosell.com/discovery, scaletosell.com/discovery. And just let us know that that's what you want to talk about. Internal transfer, succession planning, that sort of thing. We'd love to be able to have a conversation with you and introduce you to our team as well of expert exit planners and people dedicated to help you take that next step, whatever that looks like for you. So again, scaletosell.com/discovery or click the link in the show notes. And with that, I encourage you to come back next time. But until then, keep scaling.
Thank you for listening to Scale to Sell with Adam Burton and Steve Burton. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.scaletosell.com or give us a call at 757-313-4080. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Scale to Sell. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing, tax, legal, or other advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified professionals with any questions you may have regarding your personal or professional plans. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.